As of right now, my saved folder on Instagram has way too many posts, and that needs to change. So let's tackle some of these ideas together this week. 7 days, 7 recipes, and hopefully lots of delicious food. So the first 2 recipes for today are not the recipes itself that I made, but rather an inspiration that came from the video I saved. So first up, I got very inspired by this reel to make a grapefruit syrup. I didn't end up following the recipe she provided because I wanted to go in a different direction flavor-wise, but I will leave both my recipe and a link to the original in the caption, of course. My vision with this was essentially to make a spiced grapefruit syrup with cardamom, lots of sugar and honey, which is simmered down for about 20 minutes until thickened. If you don't eat honey, you can also sub this for maple syrup. You want to make sure to stir it every once in a while so the sugar doesn't stick to the bottom of the pot. And once it was thick, the syrup went into a jar and I let it infuse in the fridge overnight. So then, the next morning, I had a few ideas for serving it, but of course I wanted to eat porridge, so I served it on some quick tahini porridge. Another option would have been with yogurt and granola. That's actually what I did the next day, and it was also very delicious. I add some thick yogurt on top for creaminess and to kind of contrast the syrup, some fresh blueberries and a nice drizzle of that grapefruit syrup. This breakfast is very special, but if you have the syrup prepped, it's obviously super quick. Otherwise, great to make on the weekends or when you just want to put a little bit of extra love into your food. The syrup would also work great on pancakes or in a cocktail, just like the inspiration video suggests. Moving on to the lunch and dinner recipes, the first one being some potato fritters. The photo I saved was more like a pakora and served with some kind of chutney, but I wanted to make a spring-inspired version using seasonal flavors. I don't know about you, but I feel like spring is the perfect season to eat any kind of fritters. So these potato ones came together pretty quickly and also made a big batch to have in the fridge for the week or to keep in the freezer. I started by boiling my potatoes until tender. You want to make sure to use a starchy potato variety for this and make sure to let them cool a bit before mashing them up roughly and then adding in some other ingredients. I went in there with my hands to mix it all together and formed some fritters using an ice cream scooper. As I said, this recipe made a big batch, so I only fried up some of the batter on this day, roughly 5 minutes per side until the fritters are nice and golden. In the meantime, I wanted to make a fresh salad to go with it, so I chopped up some cabbage, added a good amount of salt, some lime zest and lime juice, and some toasted sesame oil, and I mixed it together super well once again, kind of giving the cabbage a bit of a massage to soften it slightly. I let this marinate for about 10 minutes and then served up my fritters. Of course, you can also skip the cabbage salad and just have them with a dip or yogurt, but I highly recommend making the salad. The two just go so well together. This was a great lunch, and I had the exact same lunch the next day. Okay, ignore my hair and my sweaty face right now. I just got back from running, but I just wanted to show you. I cooked up the second serving of the fritters. So they've been sitting in the fridge overnight, and I have noticed the texture is a lot better today because the inside is like more firm and more dense. I still found them good yesterday, but if you prefer a more firm or dense fritter, I recommend leaving the batter in the fridge overnight. Or you could also, after frying them, put them into the oven for about like 10 minutes. That should firm up the inside as well. That's just a bit of a tip that I wanted to put out there in case you want to make these fritters, because honestly, these are a perfect spring lunch, and I am gonna get into these right now. Alright, next up we've got a simple pasta al limone, which is perfect for the springtime. And from now on, I was actually mostly following the recipes provided instead of just using them for inspiration. I started this dish in the best way possible by frying up a bunch of garlic in olive oil. I added chili flakes, lemon zest, and continued frying this on low heat until the pasta had finished cooking, and then added the pasta straight into the pan along with a knob of vegan butter and some lemon juice. In the video, he also added in some vegan parmesan, but I personally am not a fan of the flavor of vegan parmesan, so I skipped that step. And I also forgot to buy parsley, very sadly, but that's okay. One final mix until the sauce had emulsified a bit, and I plated it up. Simple meals like this, with only a handful of ingredients, are my absolute favorite. I think we all know that by now, so I very much enjoyed this. And it was also super quick to make. I think the entire video that I took was only like 10 minutes in total. So this is a great quick meal for the springtime. Okay, I was so excited to make this next recipe. I've had this saved from the day she posted it, and it turned out so good. It's essentially a dense bean salad using crispy capers, roasted red peppers, and a bunch of other aromatics that work so well together. So to start, you're gonna dry the capers using some paper towels and then fry them in a good amount of oil until they're super crispy, which takes about 6 minutes. You can then remove the capers and store them on another paper towel to make sure they stay crispy and kind of dry out a bit. In the same pan and the same oil, you're gonna saute some shallots for a few minutes until golden before adding lots of garlic. The creator suggested 4 cloves, which I very much approve of. Add some lemon zest, ground coriander and salt and fry for a few more minutes until the garlic is fragrant. In the meantime, I assembled the salad base, which is chickpeas and white beans. I just got both of these from a can. I then also added in some mini cucumbers, roasted red peppers, all of that fried shallot and garlic mix from the pan, including the leftover oil, which is part of the salad dressing, some fresh dill and mint. Once again, I didn't have parsley on hand. Fresh lemon juice, red wine vinegar, a bit of agave to cut through the acidity, and that was it. I mixed it together for a bit before adding the crispy capers, and then gave it another mix and enjoyed with some crispy bread for a delicious lunch. The next recipe is for sumac, tofu and golden rice. However, in the original video she used salmon instead of tofu, so I will not be showing the reel on here. I don't want to give any screen time to salmon. If you do want to take a look at the reel though, I will have it linked in the caption. So I start by sauteing some shallots and garlic in olive oil until the shallots were golden, and then added in some chopped green beans as well, frying for another minute before adding paprika, turmeric and some ground cumin and salt to season. The rice and some water to cover went into the pot, and I put the lid on to let it steam for about 10 minutes. So while that rice was cooking away, I made the crispy tofu, which is super easy. Just a block of tofu coated in cornstarch, sumac and salt, and fried in olive oil until crispy on all sides. This should align pretty perfectly with the rice cooking time. You want to keep an eye on it though, just to make sure the tofu doesn't burn, as that can easily happen with the cornstarch coating. Then to assemble, I had that cooked golden rice, topping with the crispy pan-fried tofu as well as some fresh parsley that I had bought at this point. A bit of black pepper on top and a squeeze of lemon to add some freshness. Listen, this was delicious, a great combination of flavors, which was not surprising because I love rice, I love tofu, I love green beans. I just love this dish. Okay, we have one more pasta coming right up. This recipe went pretty viral on Instagram a few months ago, and I get why. It does look very appealing, so I wanted to find out if it would taste as good as it looked. The first step is marinating the tofu in a mix of soy sauce, olive oil, smoked paprika, maple syrup and cornstarch, and then roasting this in the oven until super crispy. This is kind of meant to resemble bacon, so you can definitely let it roast for a while. So for the pasta, I went out and got the exact same pasta she used in the video, which was very satisfying for some reason, and got that cooking in some salted water. In the meantime, you can go ahead and prep the creamy pasta sauce, which starts by sauteing some garlic in olive oil until golden brown, and then adding in some frozen peas to defrost, the cooked pasta. I like to add it straight into the pan whenever I make a creamy sauce like this because it creates a starchier sauce. Some miso and nutritional yeast went in there, and I stirred this until the sauce had thickened up nicely before adding in that crispy tofu bacon. Gave it another mix, but I didn't keep it in the pan for too long to make sure the tofu would stay crispy. This was delicious, unsurprisingly, once again. But these ingredients just work together so well. Especially now that peas are in season, this will become a dinner I keep on rotation. For the dessert section, this chai and coconut cake is another recipe I had to adapt to make plant-based. And spoiler alert, it didn't work too well. To start, I heated up a can of coconut milk with some chai tea bags and let this simmer for around 5 minutes to infuse all of the chai flavors. I then added the coconut milk into a mixing bowl together with some softened butter, mixed until it was all nice and creamy, and then also mixed in some sugar. Now, this is where this recipe kind of started to confuse me because I looked at the measurements and they actually said to add more sugar than flour, which isn't usually the case for a cake, but I kept going anyways, adding a couple more ingredients and the flour. At this point, I actually went back to the post to see if I had wrote down the measurements incorrectly because the batter just was way too wet. But I had all of them right, so I just went with it. You know, maybe I was in the wrong here. So I topped the cake with coconut flakes and cinnamon and put it in the oven for around 50 minutes. Okay, it did smell delicious, but after cooling for a bit, unsurprisingly, the cake actually shrank. And when I sliced into it, it was pretty obvious that more flour would have been needed. It wasn't underbaked, but it was just very wet on the inside. I still gave it a taste and it tasted pretty good. However, the ratio of flour to sugar was just off. So the cake was just overly sweet and obviously the texture wasn't my favorite. It was very, very soft and light, and I do prefer a more dense or solid cake, if that makes sense. I'm probably gonna make a similar recipe again, but using more flour and a couple different ingredients, so I'll keep you updated on that. Okay, that was another episode of the Trying My Saved Meals recipe series. Hope you enjoyed. I did a ranking last time, so I'm gonna do a ranking today. So apart from the recipes that I kind of created myself, I think my favorite was the cheesy pea and bacon pasta. However, apart from the cake, I honestly loved all of them, so I'm very happy with this week of eats. And I'm definitely going to be making a variation or the exact recipes again, because they were all really good. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, feel free to leave a comment and feel free to let me know if you'll be trying any of the recipes. Until then, I hope you have a great rest of your week and I'll see you soon.